Today on Locked On Canadiens, it's our Friday mailbag, and one of the questions we tackle, should the Montreal Canadiens be looking in the direction of Ryan O'Reilly?
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canadiens. We want to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. As you know, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you get your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $20 off your first order. My name is Laura Saba, also known as the Active Stick. And I'm joined, as always, by the wonderful Ian Boisvert, also known as Maybe It's Ian. Ian, are you ready for our Friday mailbag, our favorite time of the week?
I am, and it's kind of a fitting way for me to end the week because I'm not going to be here next week. I'm taking the week off. I haven't taken any time off in either of my jobs since May, so it's about time I take some time away. I'm putting the show into Laura's very capable hands. It will be far less stupid with me around, but I think you've got some guests booked.
Yes.
I'm not going to blow up your spot, but there are some folks coming on to fill this rectangle on the YouTube screen. So, but I will be stepping away. So I'm very happy that I get to sort of go out with a bang here and run through our mailbag. It's my favorite segment of the week.
It is honestly the best time of the week. So real quick, I do have guests. There is going to be some prospect talk, which I'm really excited about. And then I'm bringing back a fan favorite and potentially another fan favorite. So it'll be all guests next week. I won't be really flying solo. I'll just be manning the controls. And Ian is taking a much-deserved vacation. As you know, I do this all the time. And he's not taking enough vacation at all. Either way, let's get into our mailbag. We've got plenty of questions today, and you guys really came through for us. We actually have one question it was a mailbag question for today, but what we're going to do is we're actually going to put it to one of our guests coming up. And so, Bill Van V, that really intricate question that you asked, it's really cool. We really are all over it, but we want one of our nerdy guests to do that exercise with us. All right, let's get into it.
Let's start with Bill. Bill had another question, and this one I think is a little more straightforward and very much easier for my vacation brain to answer and put some proper thought to. So Bill asks, in the past, while it seems that the Habs really do not utilize the PTOs in training camp, I have to really strain to think of the last players to make the team as a PTO player. I suppose this is a good thing, but this year, given their search for more depth, both for a second-line center and organizational depth, seems like a prime opportunity to bring in some unsigned players instead of just guys they know from Laval. So one, why have the Habs not used this player acquisition outlet effectively in the past? And secondly, who are some players you can see struggling to get an NHL contract and they could or should bring in? So do you want to let's tackle the first part of this first. Why do the Canadiens not use PTOs very often?
Because they're not at that point where they need veterans still, right? They're still in their rebuild. I think at this moment in time, when you're bringing in somebody on a PTO, it's usually a veteran, and it's usually someone you think that's going to either help you in the season with growing your players, or they're going to help you in the playoffs. That's what Toronto did with Max Pacioretty, and obviously it didn't work in the macro sense. They didn't get very far in the playoffs, but he was a playoff performer for them. So it's usually the philosophy behind it, I think. And at this point, the roster holes the Canadiens need to fill are not temporary roster holes. They are who's going to be part of this core when they're contending, right? Like, that's why we keep talking about a number 2C, which we will get into in our next segment. So that's what that to me is the reason why we don't have PTOs in Montreal. But Ian, I'm going to let you take that before we talk about some players that could potentially.
Yeah, I think we got used to them for a little while in Montreal during the Bergevin era because I'm going to put this bluntly, they never had any prospects who were ready to jump into the NHL. They just never did. So you needed to bring in a Joel Ward to have a shot. You needed to bring in Thomas Fleischmann was a PTO who actually worked out. They ended up trading him and Dale Weiss in a package that brought in the pick that got Alexander Romanov and Phil Deneau. So that's the last time I can really remember a PTO truly working out for the Canadiens. So I think generally speaking, like that management group, they never had a good grasp on, okay, we're going to have guys that are going to be able to fill out this spot. So we need to take some random shots at a Joel Ward. Didn't they bring Devontae Smith-Pelly back in for a PTO and then release him? Like that was so bizarre. It was such a bizarre time. And then there were some that weren't PTOs, but they kind of were, like Mark Streit V2.0. That was, he got contract and he played a little bit, but they immediately released him.
Yeah.
Sort of what I'm thinking of. They just don't have the need. Their goals recently have been to not be very good.
Yeah.
So they'd rather have a rookie in those role, or a younger player, or a guy making league minimum in that role, than bringing in, like, Max Pacioretty signed a PTO with Toronto before effectively signing a full contract. They didn't really need to do that.
Right.
You have for, like, guys that you might want to see sign a PTO, though, if you had to take a shot.
Honestly, like I looked around and there wasn't anybody that was really calling out to me for this season, right? Like who's still UFA but hasn't declared retirement, right?
Right.
That's where I'm
Yeah.
at. I'm not there, nobody's jumping out.
No, and agreed. I don't really see much either. You look at the guys who are still available. You go to Puckpedia and you look. It goes the top 3 that are on the player dashboard for UFAs are Robbie Fabry, who's a guy who I could see signing a PTO somewhere. Alec Martinez, who's retiring. David Savard, who's retiring. Alexander Georgiev, who's a goalie, and then Jack Roslovic, who's going to sign a contract eventually. I don't think he's a PTO guy. I wonder if Luke Cunnin is a guy who could be a PTO or a late sort of stage summer/camp signing. That's a guy that I flagged as a penalty killing option and a center at that. I think we will see the PTO kind of die off in the next few years, because with the rising cap, you don't need to sign a PTO. Just give me a contract for a year. And if it's not good, if I'm not good enough, you can just bury me in the minors and it won't matter.
Exactly.
I feel like there's not enough teams that are so strapped against the cap that they have to do something like that.
Right, exactly. And it's really funny, sorry, because I was gonna say, Luke Cunnin, that came up from one of our listeners, and it turns out it was you, not our listener.
Yeah, I am also a listener, so I guess that counts. I listen to you.
Some
right,
would say that's not very wise.
Yeah, well, vice versa. All right, next question here from Super Rain. There are a lot of videos of Laine, Suzuki, and Demidov having chemistry in training in their practice this summer. How good could they be together? And is there any chance that this is the first line? Now we're cooking with gas. Yes. I love this question.
Absolutely.
I also really love this idea for a line. Yes, it blows up the Boy Genius line, which we all love. But I think this could be really good if the Canadiens can find somebody to center the second line.
Yes.
Because if you go Suzuki, Laine, and Demidov on the first line, and the second line is, let's just use this as an example, Caulfield, Slafkovsky, and McTavish down the middle. Now we're cooking with gas. Like, this is an incredible summer for Kent Hughes if that's what you can pull off. How do you feel about that line?
So I think we are very emotionally attached to the Suzuki-Caulfield relationship, but I also think that if Cole Caulfield is as good as we think he is, he should be able to play that same level with any center, right? Sure. Yes, they do bring out the best in each other, and Slafkovsky does need to have a prominent role in the top 6. I'm not going to say he needs to be on the first line or he needs to be on the second or whatever. He needs to have a prominent role in that top 6, right? So I do think that is honestly, truly, like, I want to be able to mix and match all the top 6 players, and I want the Canadiens to have that option. But all of that hinges on who the second line center is, because if you do not have a second line center that can keep up with all those players, either way, it's going to be moot, because they're not going to be able to reach their potential. They're going to be artificially held back by an inability for somebody to be able to keep up or do playmaking or drive or lead the second line.
Yeah, completely agree. Do you want to do one quick one before we head to break?
Let's do that.
First of all, Paul Burns Show wishes you a happy birthday. It is your birthday as this is being released. So happy birthday, Laura.
To me and Ken Dryden.
Yes, and Ken Dryden. He leaves us a long note about Ken Dryden as well, which and this question is actually about Ken Dryden here. On a Nelson Muntz scale of 1 to 5 ha-has, how funny is it that one of the worst trades in Bruins history sent today's birthday boy Ken Dryden to the Canadiens for 2 players who never played an NHL game, and they only got hockey karmic retribution 42 years later when they landed Tuukka Rask from Toronto in an equally funny trade. Maybe not really a question and more of an easy way to dunk on teams number 30 and 31 I would root for after the Habs. Those are both very funny. I guess the second one's less funny because Boston did actually get a really good player, even though Toronto got screwed. But the first one is,
hilarious.
I've got Ken Dryden over my shoulder every day I record this. Like, that's very funny.
Right. Yeah. And Ken Dryden is like a pillar of some of those really great Montreal Canadiens teams. So yes, the Canadiens one is funnier. But I do think that I do relish the opportunity to laugh at the Rask for Raycroft trade on my birthday. So Paul, thank you so much for always being a loyal listener and always giving us all that insight on goaltending and for remembering my birthday. I really appreciate it. As for the rest of you, you can't be mean to me today because it is my birthday. So only say nice things. All right. One of the nice things we are going to talk about is our good friend Boondoggle wanted to know, what about Ryan O'Reilly for second line center? So we're going to get into that in just one moment here on Locked On Canadiens. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. Think about it. It's a nice night. There's a ballpark in your city. You want to go to a ball game because what's a better way to spend a time? A summer afternoon. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to the first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes all the worry out of buying. If you're tired of endless scrolling, trying to find the best deal, Game Time's Zone Deals pick the best seats in the section for you. And you get the seat view right in the app before you buy, so you always know what you're getting into. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time today. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's get back into our mailbag. We had like plenty of good questions. What have we got for our second segment?
Before we jump into the mailbag, I just want to send out one more reminder because we have not heard from this person yet. Dodo the Elite, you have won our contest, our subscriber contest on YouTube. We have not heard from you yet. So please send us an email with proving that you are who you claim to be, that you are subscribed to us, and we'll communicate how we can get this get the prize over to you as soon as possible. So please reach out. We will. We're holding it for now. We don't know how long we'll hold it, but we're holding it for now. So please be sure to reach out to us. All right, let's do our next question from our pal Boondoggle. 2C or not 2C? I know there's a lot of smoke around McTavish, but the Habs will likely have to give up too much. Could the Habs have to wait for a better opportunity to fill 2C permanently and maybe pick up a former Conn Smythe winner with 2 years left to fill the gap? Ryan O'Reilly has a cap hit of $4.5 million. I don't think Demidov has done any favors playing with the crop of possible roster players the Habs would dress in that role. He really deserves a quality player to get his NHL game perfected. I think this goes hand in hand with another question we got. So I'm going to mention this one as well from Victor, actually over on TikTok. We're getting some TikTok questions now. So our TikTok clout is growing, Laura. Hey, I am new on the podcast and I had a question. Which team do you think could possibly announce a rebuild, maybe in the start of the next year if they have a bad start, or later in the summer when they realize they need it, giving the Habs what they possibly need to get a 2C? What names do you have? I think that Nashville is a perfect example of a team who might start the season and realize, all right, it's over. We have to end this. We'll get back to Victor's question in a second, but to bring this back to Boondoggles, I think that Ryan O'Reilly is a perfect example of a guy the Canadiens should be trying to target, around mid-November, early December, when, if the Predators still have a historically bad time scoring goals, maybe that's a guy you can get into Montreal. You already have a relationship with Barry Trotz, given the trade you made last year. How do you like that fit?
I like it, and I also think you don't have to give up too much. I think there are, because if Nashville is declaring a rebuild, they're not looking for a roster player. They're probably looking for a blue chip prospect, or you can get away with giving them a couple picks and a decent prospect, right? And I'm also looking at, for whatever reason, the name, and I know he's not a center, but the name Sean Farrell is coming to mind because they're having trouble scoring, and he's more of an assist boy, the small assist boy, but he's like, I feel like that's the kind of situation that is good for both parties, right? You're not going to get away with just Sean Farrell. It is Ryan O'Reilly at an excellent cap hit, right?
Mhm.
So I do strongly feel that Sean Farrell would be one of the pieces going back in the opposite direction. So I really love this question. I love Boondoggle's suggestion, and I think they can make it work. And then it gives them some time to see what they've got. We keep saying the name Michael Hage, but if we're talking McTavish, he's definitely the first guy Anaheim asks for. So for me, that Nashville Ryan O'Reilly, it'll come at a better price for the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, and I think Ryan O'Reilly is like the perfect guy for this role. Still scores a bunch, 53 points, despite being on a terrible Nashville team last year. He was a minus 23 somehow still, which is kind of astounding.
Hilarious.
He was 55.7% at the faceoffs, left-handed shot. And the best part about Ryan O'Reilly's contract right now, he does not own any no trade protection. He can be traded anywhere at any time, and nobody can stop it. So that's one fewer hurdle that you have to, get over. What are some other teams that you're looking at, like Nashville, who might get to American Thanksgiving and go, oh crap, we're not actually very good? And could the Canadiens start, picking that team apart?
Yes. Okay. So I also just really love that the question is phrased reconstruction, because that's clearly like a francophone listening to our podcast, and I just my heart goes every time, every time I hear about it. I think a couple that come to mind right away for me are Vancouver and New York, because I think New York is really kidding themselves, and
Which
I
New
think
York?
New York Rangers.
It could go either way. You could get me on either one, and I'd be like, yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, but I think the Islanders are honest about their rebuild. I think the
This is true.
Islanders and the Montreal Canadiens have established a relationship, a positive relationship, and I think that that's going to go okay. And I think that they're honest. They're rebuilding. They've got some great picks from this past draft. They are where the Montreal Canadiens were a couple of years ago. But the New York Rangers are kidding themselves right now. And so I think that that's going to implode very early on, and hopefully they will have the self-awareness to declare a rebuild again and actually pursue it in earnest, instead of just firing Jeff Gorton and then trying some things that don't work. And I think Vancouver, something is really off about Vancouver, and they're like, oh well, there's toxicity, and then let's trade an element, then let's trade another element, and then let's not do this, and then let's acquire these players who aren't really going to move the needle. So I feel like Vancouver is going to be one of them. And then I hate to say it, but Calgary, because that
Yeah.
goaltending really, really, really artificially inflated their season.
Yeah. I agree on all counts. There's a part of me that wants to say that this year for Toronto coming up, they're going to take a step back. And I think they're expecting a step back, but I don't know how much of a step they actually end up taking. Like, if they're a bubble playoff team, I think it's way further back than they thought they'd go. But I look at them as a team who might decide, hey, let's start to get some of this dead weight off the team, so that we can take a real swing at a UFA next year when, horrifyingly enough, Connor McDavid's going to be available, or might be available. So yeah, I think there's the way that the salary cap is going up, a lot of these teams are going to make that decision early so that they can weaponize their cap space to get worse. So we'll see. I'm very excited to see, who ends up in that position, and if the Canadiens can take advantage. All right, let's do one more before we head to break here. This one's from our pal Randy. I had a terrific Indian curry at a Wolf Festival off a food truck recently. What food truck marvel have you had? I also had a gorgeous burrito in Oakland, California one year that blew me away. Where are you at on what's the best food truck fare you've ever had?
I was in Maine one time, and I don't remember the name, but I got a lobster roll that was out of this world. Now in Maine, everybody does lobster rolls, etc., etc. It's one of the places you go. Also Halifax, a great place for that. But there was something about this lobster roll, honestly. I think they had crushed up chips in it. They also I'm not a super big mayo person, so it was celery and lemon and all of that. So it wasn't like, that sweet, like creamy, but it was just so delicious. Everything came together really well. The acid, the fat, the
Yeah.
lobster part, incredible. And then they had like really, really good fries. And it was off a food truck, even though there were a crap load of lobster restaurants around. That was the best one.
Yeah, I think the mayo based one is actually a Connecticut style, and I'm from
Oh,
Connecticut,
cool.
and I don't even prefer the Connecticut one. I want a Maine one. Like the Maine one's just better. I don't know who we're
It's
fooling.
butter. It's because it's
Yeah,
butter. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know that one food truck stands out to me more than any other. I have two that are more so like sentimental to me. There was one down the street from where I went to school called Meet the Press, and it was just like pressed sandwiches that I would walk down the block in the winter and grab a sandwich, and it was just sort of like it's very reminiscent of that time. The other one is an equally fun named one called Rice to Meet You. They do rice bowls very close to my house. I will say that the best food truck experience I've ever had, though, is in New Haven, Connecticut. It is right next to an IKEA. If you are ever there, it's right along the wharf on the Sound in Connecticut. It is a street that they have literally carved away to just be for food trucks. It is the best, like some of the best Mexican food I've ever had. Birria tacos, fresh churros. Every time I'm there, I'm like, oh, we have to go to IKEA. That's a pain. But I also get to go eat all of those food truck food again. So I'm very into that.
This
So it's excellent. If you come down
this
there, we're going.
One day I will come back. I will come down because that sounds amazing. I also want to shout out our good friend Jay Foster, who had excellent food trucks at his wedding. Like they were so good. And I just didn't want to get too into like personal details about our friends. So I'm not going to name anything or the place or whatever. But also like this will blow your mind, Ian. I know we have to go to break, but Montreal did not actually have food trucks. Like there were no permits until about 6 or 7 years ago. And then we got food trucks for the first time, yes. And so we don't have enough of a food truck culture, which is why when you're talking about that street next to the IKEA in New Haven, Connecticut, I am all about it. And see, I remembered what you said because I plan to visit one day.
Poutine and steamed hot dogs is like begging for food trucks.
Yeah,
What are we doing? Like
I
that's
know. And
crazy. It
then
took that
yes,
long.
but now we're catching up. There's like a raclette food truck and everything too, so we're
Yeah.
catching up. All right, we've got plenty more mailbag questions coming up next. All right. I think we were trying to race through all our mailbag questions, but now we're kind of falling behind a little bit. What do we have left in our mailbag?
Let's go to another TikTok one because we are expanding our outreach, and I really appreciate that we're getting questions in a bunch of different places now. This is from Mihaney33, who asked, just listen to the What If the Canadians Took Shane Wright episode for a Montreal Marvel What If episode. What is this team where Price doesn't get injured? How different is this team if Price doesn't get injured? Do we still have the prospects we have now? Does the team have a cup already? Is the management the same? This might have been answered before, but what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Carey Price, let's take it all the way back to the 2014 run. And he doesn't get run into in that game, and he stays in that series. Does Montreal win that series?
Montreal wins the series, but I don't know if they have a cup.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were going to beat that LA team,
Yeah,
right?
they both the Rangers and the Canadiens were like running out of offense at the end of that series because, like, yes, they had that one game at the Bell Center where they scored a bajillion goals, but like Rennie Bork had 3 of them. So how much of that actually mattered? Like, but I completely agree with you. I think that series at least goes to 7, and the Canadiens have a legit chance of winning that. But I also think that they get to that Stanley Cup final against LA, and they don't
No one was
win.
beating LA that year.
No, that year or any other year they got that deep. Like there was a point in time when the cup final was the Western Conference final between LA and Chicago. And it was whoever's going to win that series is winning the cup, and that was one of those years.
Yes.
As for like expanded history, like we continue to look forward and see what else changes. I mean, they probably go a little bit further in 2015. Not that he was injured through that, but the lingering issues of that probably are a little bit easier to deal with. The 2016 season, they don't lose him for the entirety of that season. He actually plays in the Winter Classic. I wore my Winter Classic shirt on the other episode. Does PK Subban end up getting traded? Because do they have the level of dysfunction that they had without Carey Price there? Like, I think that's a legitimate conversation to have.
Yeah. And you would still have the core that was Max Pacioretty, PK Subban, Carey Price. I don't even remember who else. And Brendan Gallagher would have made it at that point. Like, it would have been a very different team.
Yeah. I don't know that this adds a cup. Because those teams were Carey Price. And yes, if he was healthy, it would have helped. But like they did not build a roster around him. Like we talked about him on the 2014 Olympic team and the roster they built around him. Obviously, no NHL team is going to be able to do that. But the Canadiens, David Desharnais was the first line center, guys. Like it wasn't happening for that roster.
Right.
But I think he wins enough games and he plays more. Maybe he has another Vezina under his belt. Maybe that makes him a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like maybe all of that is enough, but I don't know.
In our hearts, he's still a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, no question. Except next year he's going to go in with like Bergeron, which is fine. Or like Chara. Isn't Chara available too? Like it stinks. Not a big fan. Anyway, let's do another one here. This one from let's do this one from Brett. Brett asks, hi, Lauren and Ian, you both have a very particular set of hockey skills equally desired by all 32 NHL teams. You are UFAs, and every team in the league offers you an identical contract of $12.5 million over 5 years, a very respectable $2.5 million AAV. Where are you signing and why? And if it's Montreal, which other team is your top alternative? Are you following your heart, looking for a Stanley Cup, meeting some living legends in the locker room, following the palm trees and low tax rates? I will first and foremost say it's Montreal. I'm not playing anywhere else. If someone's offering me that amount of money, I'm going to Montreal. It's awesome. I assume that's the same for you.
Yes, but I do have some alternatives.
Yeah, who's second in line? Assuming Montreal doesn't have the cap space and they can't afford it. Like who's second in line for you?
I'm gonna get so much hate mail for this. Florida.
Yeah, well, of course.
I don't like the heat. I don't mind paying taxes. I don't like the humidity. I don't like snakes, but I like winning. So, you go for the cup. That's what you do.
Yeah.
And then another runner-up would be San Jose because they're really fun right now. And finally, the Islanders because, again, they're really fun right now. Like, I want those kinds of teams where, like, yes, they were forced to rebuild, but then, they're doing some good things and they're getting some good pieces.
Yeah, if I was going off of city and nothing else, Boston would be up there, but I'm not playing for the Bruins, so that is a no. I love Boston, such a cool city, but I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
None of their teams. Well, actually, I'm a Red Sox fan. Don't tell anyone.
Yeah, I think it would be cool to be a Ranger. I think that would be cool. You're playing at Madison Square Garden, like you're living in Manhattan. It's pretty sick.
Yeah, but like everyone says that, and then like look, they've been like embarrassing for so long.
Yeah, but who cares? Like you're yes, you're a major attraction in New York, but like you're not even the biggest team to play out of that building.
Yeah.
Like and if Billy Joel's playing, you're third fiddle. Like you're not even being considered. Like I feel like you could still kind of disappear in a way in New York. Whereas like Montreal, you definitely wouldn't be able to do.
We have an Instagram question we can't miss because last week we missed the Instagram question and we let our good friend down.
This was Terry, correct?
Yes.
All right, I do have this one pulled up. Here's a mailbag question for you. Let's assume all goes as planned and the Habs win a cup in the next 5 years. Which current roster players, including Laval's roster, will be on the Habs Cup-winning team? Their answer was Suzuki, Caulfield, Slafkovsky, Bolduc, Demidov, Hage, Evans, Dobson, Carrier, Gouli, Hudson, Xhekaj. One omission from that I noticed, and maybe it wasn't meant, but David Reinbacher's not on that list. I would imagine he's a big part of the Canadiens winning a Stanley Cup. Is there anyone else that you would add to that list or take away from that list?
I don't know if Alex Carey is going to be here.
I want him to be desperately. Like I agree with. My heart says he needs to be here. That would be so cool.
I don't know if that's what they're like. He's not a guy that they're like, this is untouchable, right? Like he's not a guy, but like he brings so much. Like I hope that they have another playoff run because if they do, that's going to cause them to re-sign him or keep him around longer, right? Like
Yeah.
I want another playoff run this year for that reason. Like Bolduc, I'm like 50-50 on him being here, and I hate to say it, but it's possible that Evans has moved on by then.
Yeah, I kind of thought that too. Although maybe he's a guy that's just gonna say, I want to stay in Montreal, just keep me here. He talks to his
Yeah.
agent, says, I just want to be here.
And then he takes
yeah,
a cut.
yeah, I think that's right. No goalies listed here, which I found interesting. No Dobish, no Montembeault, no Fowler.
I think it would be Jacob Fowler at that point. That's just
So
my
what are you
opinion.
doing with Montembeault then? Like, is Montembeault the backup? Or
Yeah.
is Montembeault like, screw this, I'm gonna go be a starter somewhere?
No, Dobish is somewhere else, and Montembeault's the backup at
Interesting.
that point. Yeah.
I don't want to
He's
lose
had
any of those guys. Those
I
are three
know.
of the coolest dudes. Like, I
Yeah.
might be really upset to lose all of them or any of them.
But here's the thing, though, because I do feel that Jakub Dobish is like a serviceable backup, et cetera, but I feel like Montembeault is going to have a good few years. Like, and a lot of people said that we were kind of underestimating him or undervaluing him in our last episode when we said that he wasn't one of the top 3 goalies in the league. I think it was top 3 when we said he wasn't
goals above expected.
Yeah, and goals above expected. So there was a lot of talk about that, and I know like we had a lot of opinions on that. I think very highly of him. I just feel that at that point, like Jacob Fowler will have stolen the net.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that at all. I do with a question like this, I sort of like there's a part of me that's like it's bad form to be. It's sort of like asking, okay, like what's the order of the Stanley Cup being passed around? Like in my head, like that's how I answered the question, and I was like, this feels icky. I don't feel like I should be answering this, but I understand the thought exercise of who's actually part of this team when they're very, very good. Carey, I would love to see him still be a part of it. I would love if they can get him as a third pair defenseman, right shot, shut down, yes, small but penalty killer, that sort of thing. Like why go anywhere? Just stay here.
Yeah. I want to see him here. All right. Did we miss any mailbag questions that I'm going to have to carry over to next week?
I'm going to say no, but that's, a fool's errand. So maybe, but I think I got through all of the ones I could find. So thank you all for sending those in and for continuing to entertain us as we put together our last episode of the week. Let's do our trivia and head out of here. Yesterday, our last episode's question was, I was wearing my Winter Classic t-shirt with a player name and number on the back, and I asked which player was on the back of the shirt. Laura, do you remember who it was?
It was Andrei Markov.
It was Andrei Markov. Nobody had that one right. That was one of the last. Was that Markov's last year in Montreal, the 15-16 season?
I want to say
16-17. He was here 16-17 because he played with Weber for a year. So yes. So he had one more after that, but it's very late stage Andrei Markov. Nobody had that one. But sticking with the theme of the outdoor game, which Montreal Canadien who played in an outdoor game with the Canadiens has appeared in the most total career outdoor games? So which player who played for Montreal has appeared in the most outdoor games while also playing in at least one of them with the Montreal Canadiens? If you have the answer, put it in the comments down below this video, email it to us, send it to us any way you know how, and we'll shout you out on the next episode of the show.
And you heard the man. That is a trivia question, which I had a preview of it last time, and I still can't figure out who it is. I was trying to guess for the night, the last 48 hours. But if you guys know more than I do, please send in your trivia answers. You can send them to us via email at lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. Also send your mailbag questions. You can also get in touch with us on Blue Sky. We're Locked On Canadiens. On Instagram, we're Locked On Canadiens. On TikTok, we are Locked On Canadiens. And finally, you can leave mailbag questions or trivia answers in the YouTube. I do remember now that there was one that I will tackle next week because I just remembered that I took a screenshot and never sent it to Ian. So we will be covering your mailbag questions next week. As you know, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, so you get your team every day. We're 3 days a week over the summer, so I'll be in Monday, Wednesday, and Friday next week with a special guest on each episode. You do not want to miss them. And make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you follow us all over social media. Ian is at Maybe It's Ian. I am at The Active Stick. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next week.